Hi, I'm Christina,
And I'm Matt.
and this is New Wayz podcast. Today, the topic we are discussing is things you can't control.
Yes.
In regards to that, we're going to be talking about family, work, slightly politics, as well as also how to handle your emotions when it comes to things you can't control, and in a way lessen your burden on life, I guess,
Yeah.
right? Lessen the burden of holding all these emotions and thinking that you need to try to control everything.
Yep.
And how to just kind of accept it and move on in a way.
Yes. So that's been a big thing that you and I have recently sort of kind of talked about that we've been experiencing personally. And so I kind of would like for you to quickly discuss with us too about how I know recently you've talked about some things that has been going on in your life, things you can't really control.
Yeah.
And so how have you been able to sort of quote unquote, release some of that aspect of control and just allowing those feelings to happen?
So I kind of want to save how I released it for the end, because I kind of want to just get us to go over things that people can't control in general. So I guess my experience and just the progression of things, finding out things we can't control and then how to deal with them after. But in regards to that, my own personal experience when I think about things that I can't control is, and this is still very relevant, it's family situations, work situations. But this week, recently, even last week, I was very shocked about this other thing that I couldn't control, because me being myself, I was like, this is something I thought that I could.
Mm-hmm.
And I do still believe in positive thinking, positive type of affirmations, and that the world is what you make it and we're the creator of our own realities. But that doesn't mean that we always have control over our emotions, right?
Yeah.
The human body and the brain is such an insane thing. And I thought before, I'm happiness is a choice. This is a choice. But what I found out this week was I was extremely depressed for a week straight. It's getting better now. But I even talked to you. I'm like, Matt, I just want to rot in bed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do anything. It feels like my heart physically hurts. But nothing really changed in my life. Nothing major. Obviously, things are constantly fluctuating back and forth. But friendships are the same. Most relationships are the same, besides a few things here or there. Work is the same besides a few things here and there. I just felt extremely sad. And that's one thing where I was like, I could try to peel myself off this couch and go about everything. And even when I tried to do that, though, it was still on my back, weighing on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I went, of course, did the right thing, went to my therapist, talked to her and stuff. And she's like, Christina, the problem is you're so good about thinking logically that it's not doing you any favors. But anyways, I digress. We're going to talk about it at the end. But no, I was super depressed for the past week, going on into 2 weeks. And I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I thought I control my own emotions, but that's clearly not the case. It's kind of just those toxic thoughts. If you ever stood at the edge of a ledge and you're like, should I jump? And you're not going to.
Of course. Yeah. And you're like,
it comes up. You're like,
what do I do?
I didn't make that conscious right now. I didn't make that pop up. It just did.
Yeah.
So emotions are often, as much as I'm you can control them to some extent, a lot of times you can't, because we're human and
absolutely,
it's part of the human experience. So.
Yeah. I mean, recently I went through kind of a situation where we talked about things we can't control. And that was, I was with actually a first grade class this past week. And because I was just working with a kiddo in that class. And I'll never forget, this parent came in to work with us, and they were just so stressed out the entire time, because it was art class. We needed extra stuff here and there. And I could just see this look in this parent's eyes, just how is this okay? What we're doing? What's this? What's going to happen here? What are we going to do this? And I could just tell.
Was there even a thought, or was it mostly just reactive activity?
No, it was just total reactivity.
Yeah.
But I mean, also the thought was there because the class is a lot, you know, and the kids are a lot, and there's a lot of feelings related to it that can come up. And so that's a really big thing. And so the thing is I just remember being really relaxed in that moment. I thought to myself, I was like, man, why is this person so stressed?
Mm-hmm.
Why does this person seem so? And I realized that when they were put in an environment that they didn't that wasn't comfortable to them, or they weren't really maybe the most aware of. It kind of created this like false narrative kind of in their head that like everything had to be like perfect. And if it wasn't perfect, the whole thing was going to crumble. And granted, in that person's life, I don't know what that person does for a job, but it seemed pretty stressful.
Yeah.
Because I could just tell that like the smallest thing that didn't quite fit, or if this didn't quite work out, or if this certain kid didn't get this paint color, or if we didn't get our aprons on time, the whole world was going to come crashing down. And so I was just, and the thing, it's like a really big thing that I've sort of weirdly reflected on, where I'm like, all right, like we're going to have moments where we don't have our aprons. We're going to have moments when the paint colors aren't the right color, or maybe we're not sitting in the right seat, or maybe that drawing didn't turn out the way we wanted. But at the end of the day, we still get to leave art class. We still get to go to lunch. We still get to have a good rest of the day.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the kind of most biggest recent changers for me.
Yeah, I think realizing a lot of like the things that are going on is a key component in kind of like making a little bit more peace with your situation and things you can't control. In regards to that, so we can kind of go through different aspects of life people might encounter. What are kind of, let's talk about family. What do you think in family are situations where you might not be able to control?
You know, recently I was actually thinking about this question, and I know that, you know, we have Thanksgiving coming up.
Yes, the holidays.
Right? The holidays are coming up, and so do Christmas and stuff. And I think the thing is like when we come back to values, that is a huge thing when it comes to figuring out what we can and cannot control, because you understand very quickly what kind of values you have as a person and what kind of values your parents or your siblings or your cousins or aunts or uncles might have that are totally different from yours. And yet you're still trying to navigate how to set healthy boundaries and create healthy relationships. And maybe you do have a healthy relationship, but your values just don't align. So then that kind of can create some negative feelings.
Yeah.
So I think that it can definitely go both ways.
Because I do think that, like, that is a situation that you can and can't control at the same time. A lot of people would be like, oh, I know how to handle my parents. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, I think that if I make a good point of view, then that way I'll be able to skew them in, like, seeing what I want to see. But that's definitely something, too, that I think that people need to, like, once somebody shows you they're not open to receiving, like, the outlook that you're having, instead of beating yourself up trying, is when you have to take a step back and just acknowledge, hey, like, we're two different people. But, like, definitely when it comes to, like, morals or beliefs with family, I think that's something that we're all just different people. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, it's not your responsibility or, like, your burden to try to convince people to see your point of view, especially, though, because you never know what's going on in their head. And as much as you want them to see your side, they very well might never. But once again, people can go run around in circles in their head being like, I need to get them to see this. Oh, I have to abandon a part of me in order to please this family member. Like, I'm not going home for the holidays this year. I'm not. I'm spending a month in a tropical place that I love being, that's going to make my mind expand a little bit. And I want my family and friends to support me, but the one thing that I've accepted, though, is it's just like I'm doing this for me and nobody else, and how they're going to react, though, like, that's something I just have to accept. Yeah. You know, I feel like, family's definitely a difficult one, especially to, like, some families are more receptive, don't get me wrong, but when somebody shows you who they are, please just believe them. Yeah. Because you're going to waste a lot of energy trying to control, like, situations that are out of your control. Just like even with the holidays you're saying, though, like last year, my mom, she's going to hate that I'm saying this. My mom set her oven on fire. You know?
She burnt the what?
She set the oven on fire.
Oh.
We had a grease fire. And in that moment, too, though, we could have either let, like, that ruin our entire day and stress about it, or just be like, this is the situation we're running into. We do not have meat for the meal. We can, like, what are we gonna do? Fight the fire? Like, yes, you fight the fire, but, like, am I just gonna make a turkey come out of thin air?
Did it burn the kitchen then? Like,
no, but the oven was not salvageable.
Oh.
It was But that's what I
melted
mean,
the
though.
oven.
I'm just like, there are circumstances that just pop up, though, and you're like, me and my sisters were laughing. Like, my mom and my brother-in-law were not too thrilled, but
Yeah.
that's something I can't control, right? Like, I didn't know that was going to happen. I feel like a lot of times during the holidays, we all stress about making things so perfect.
Yeah.
Everything has to be perfect. This gift has to be right. But remember what it's truly about.
Yeah.
And that's not doing, like, stressing about those situations is not doing you any good.
How do you personally, I have a question for you now that on that discussion of not being able to do, like, it's not doing you any good.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with self-destructive people?
The self-destructive people?
Yeah. Like, as family members, and you're talking about things we can't control, how do you deal with self-destructive family members?
Define self-destructive.
So in regards to, say, like, they could be addicted to something that's really hard for them to work with. So that's like a huge thing right off the bat, addiction.
Just like somebody who's always chaotic in a way.
Yeah, it could be habits, could be bad habits.
My biggest thing that's like
bad coping skills.
What's helped me completely though. And what's just helped me so much in my life when it comes to like friends, family, work is realizing that like as much as I want to, I can say my piece and not try to force it down your throat. I'm like, as long as I've done that, like you can't change people if they don't want to change. You kind of just have to accept people for who they are and realize what's yours to carry and help with and what's yours to just be like, yo, this is not a situation for me.
Yeah.
I feel like just being a little bit more aware of the situation and looking at it like this person's constantly been like this in my life. I don't think that they're open or receptive to me like trying to help with the situation or get them to calm down. I'm going to take a step back and like be there where I can to support them. But like, I don't know. I'm really big on energy now. And I'm just like, your chaotic energy is not my burden to carry or to suck in either. Like I literally will just watch from afar and be there the best that I can if I choose to be there. There's some people I can't stand to be around. And that's where I'm like, I can control me and myself and how I respond to things. And I don't want to put myself in a situation where I might not act the way that I want to act or a way that I'm proud of. So I'm just not going to put myself in those situations. But for loved ones that you still want to be around is kind of just like genuinely accepting people for who they are. I feel like will save you a lot of heartache because like that's something you can't control. Like I can't control what you actually really want to do. I can share with you my opinion and my feelings, but you're going to do what you want to do anyways. Most people do. So once you shared and spoke your piece, I think you just have to accept you did everything that you can do. Other than that, like we can't control other people. This is not a video game. This isn't Sims.
Yeah.
I think that's it. It's just like radical acceptance of who somebody is and then realizing like I can still be there, but just from afar.
The idea of radical acceptance is really fascinating to me because it's just like being able to actually set that boundary with people and be like, that is on you.
Yeah.
Is to me is so.
To me, that's not
wild.
A boundary though. A boundary is you like if somebody does something to you and you're like, this is not okay with me. This does not feel right. That's something I can talk about a little bit later when we get into my depressive stuff is like, if something's not feeling right with you, you kind of do need to say something though, because if you don't, you're abandoning yourself. And I don't like that. To me, that like radical acceptance, it's not setting a boundary. It's just accepting the moment and the person for who they are.
So I would say that like, I've through radical acceptance, I've set massive.
So yeah, they can go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But I don't like that's two different things. Radical acceptance to me is just like in a way it's like living in the moment. It's like instead of trying to change something all the time, you're like, okay, this is where we're at right now.
Yeah. I think for me, I look at radical acceptance and I'm like, for me, it sets a boundary because it sets a boundary for myself. Because I don't allow myself to downward spiral with radical acceptance because it gives me the opportunity to recognize that I can't be in control of what that person or what that situation is, especially when it comes to, say, self-inflection or negative coping skills. I'm like, at the end of the day, sadly, the choices that they make are on them.
Yeah.
And I can't be in control of that. Experience camps taught me that more than ever, especially working with the kids that I worked with. And so at the end of the day, I really recognize that through radical acceptance, it almost, in a way, I know you say it doesn't set a boundary, but for me, it really set like a personal boundary of recognizing in those moments, I can't do anything about this. So because I can't do anything about this, I have to move forward because I am a very caring person and I love carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders because that's just who I am in my nature. I know that, you know, when I went to the breath class with Gianni, I came out of that breath class literally in tears because I felt like I had 50 million pounds taken off of me because for so long I held on to so much trauma.
But it wasn't your baggage.
It wasn't my baggage, but it came to the radical acceptance of recognizing I can't hold on to everyone's stuff. So because of that, it set that boundary for me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, radical acceptance doesn't even necessarily mean just like with people in general. It could also mean just like circumstances.
Yeah.
Like this is plainly like where I am right now, like no more, no less. I'm not like looking into the future, trying to create and like dwelling on this moment because I don't have what I want, or like I'm not dwelling in this moment because I don't have what I have in the past. Like radical acceptance can be practiced in all aspects of life of things you can't really control. Because like I can wish and pray for tomorrow, but like it's not going to come before it's time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and like I said, with boundaries, they go hand in hand. But the one thing I really want to make clear when it comes to like setting boundaries is like, my therapist asked me this and she's just like, aren't you, I realized that like, even though this person or these people have been in my life for a while now, like just due to who I am as a person, I'm different than when I was when I first met them. Like, I guess certain things that they were doing was affecting me. So that's something I can't control though either. It's just like, I mean, I don't want to digress. I can go down and like tell myself it's okay, but my body's physically telling me no. I don't want people to say like abandoned who they are. Cause my aspect, she's like, aren't you angry at this person? I'm like, no, how can I be angry for somebody being who they are? And she's like, yes, but anger also kind of sets a boundary in a way. Cause then you can voice your, like, how would you feel if you told this person, like, when you do this, it does not make me feel good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would I say that though? That she seems like it's starting a conflict that like should not arise, because I'm like, in reality, I don't think this person really cares about what I have to say because we're just at different levels now. I have a feeling it's just going to be met with resistance, if anything. She's like, yes, I get how you're like focusing on the things you can't control, but you also can control not abandoning yourself. So she's like, if that's something that you feel like you need to kind of say to like set yourself free and see who that person actually is, like you do need to say that though.
So you can control on not abandoning yourself.
Yes.
Whoa.
Because like that's the thing that was like, I've always been this person in regards to emotions, like because people set us off.
Yeah.
People like family members will say things that set us off, work situations, like you don't like the situation that's going on. A lot of times I feel like with work too, we want to shut ourselves down and not speak up because we're like, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Like I want to make more money, but I don't think they're going to be open to it. And I think I might just be stepping on toes, or like this project we're working on, I think I can do it better, but it might be met with resistance. But it's like every time you abandon yourself doing that, like you never really know the outcome. And she's just like, Christina, why you've been feeling so depressed lately though? And like internally your heart's aching is because you're not speaking your mind either. Yeah. She's like, do it in the most gentle way possible. And like accept that like the way they respond might not be the way that you want them to respond.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you need to say what you need to say, like, because these emotions are real, even though you don't want to feel them and it makes no logical sense to you.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would I feel that way? Like I accept people for who they are. She's like, that still doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. Like this is a human experience. Like emotions are part of it.
You can control not abandoning yourself. How many people day to day abandon who they are just to be able to appease people? But I'm saying like that is so huge. Like talking about things you can and can't control.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you want to know, and this might be a little off topic, but in regards to abandonment, you want to know something that I heard and I was like, whoa, this actually makes so much sense. And at the time I needed to hear it though too, because I was dealing with a client that was going through like abandonment issues. I feel like a lot of times in any type of relationship, we're scared of being abandoned, right? Like honestly, anything. Like if we upset our family, we're scared that they're going to reject us. If we say anything like to a partner, a lot of times we're scared, oh, they're going to leave us. Even with a job, you're scared if you speak up, you might lose your job. Yep. So a lot of us, I feel like in society today, deal with abandonment issues. And it's like, oh, you have abandonment issues? No wonder, because every single chance you get, you abandon yourself.
Yeah.
So why are you questioning why you have those issues? Like it makes complete sense. You know, it's like you have abandonment issues, but you keep abandoning yourself.
Yeah. No, agreed. And I think the thing is like how many people will choose that just to create the like quick internal peace.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost like the instant gratification in a way,
Yeah.
because I talk to, my partner a lot about brave conversations. I call them brave conversations because I never want to call them like fights, or I never want to call them
Yeah.
like angry discussions, or like,
Well,
and
there's a way to speak your mind without making the situation worse
agreed.
or forcing like something on it. Yeah,
Agreed.
completely.
And that's the thing. It's just like I don't like to do that. I've never been someone for that kind of conflict. And so as I've gotten older, even through my past relationships, I've learned now, like, okay, this is how I need to approach this. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I talk with him about having brave conversations because I don't want to lose myself.
Yeah.
And that I still want to say, hey, like, this is what I'm personally going through. This is how I feel about this situation. This is what I kind of am struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that more and more, even in like my workplace job, which is interesting. Even though I work for myself.
But you still deal with people on a day-to-day
I deal with
basis,
people on a
yeah.
day-to-day, literally,
All
it's
the
like,
time,
literally,
yes.
like, right, working in therapy. So it's just, I work with people constantly, but I've noticed that like me being more honest with people that I'm working with, or like
Mm-hmm.
I've seen like a higher amount of sort of like actually respect
Yeah.
in those ways, or just that honesty has really shined through, and people now come to me for things because they feel like they can trust me to talk
Yeah.
about things because I'm more honest with them about my views on the situation
Mm-hmm.
if they ask for that opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really big thing because so many people just want to go through life so politically correct, and it gives me such ick to go through life politically correct. Because the thing is I do think that there's a time and place for political correctness.
Yes.
And there's a time and place for appropriate behavior. Absolutely.
But what is necessarily politically correct?
I
It
mean,
varies from person to person, I feel like. Some people
Yeah.
might say like your actions or your thoughts or what you're saying is completely valid in that moment. Some people might think it's completely absurd.
absolutely.
That's what I mean, is like we can't control other people's thoughts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But imagine being in trouble for having those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, and even just like thoughts that you're like, maybe, hey, this is something you're dealing with at work, or maybe this is something you're dealing with at home or whatever. And like, then you have someone who goes and tries to, shame you or cancel you or make you feel less than for having,
But you're kind of
those
doing that to
thoughts.
yourself from abandoning yourself
You
to
are.
fit everybody else's box anyways.
Yeah.
I don't know. From what I've just realized is great things and innovations happen when you do speak your mind. And I feel like there's a certain way you can go about it though without having people like, if somebody wants to cancel you, they're going to find every reason to. If somebody wants to come after you or say something bad about you, like kind of that one person, I'm like, were they looking out for me? Someone's going to find something that, like you said, that's going to upset them. If somebody's looking, they will find, but that's something you really can't control. Like if somebody has it out for you, you don't know what's going on in their head. Yeah. Like that's just a them thing, but you can control yourself in a way where it's like, no, you can't control your emotions, but you can control how you react. Back to like my therapy session, I'm like, girl, if I said everything that was just on my mind, then it might not look too pretty or sound like make sense. She's like, okay, but then you can revise it in a way though where it's coming for the best possible outcome for this other person and for you. Like as long as you have the interest of both parties at heart and you speak your mind and you do it from like, because you can control how you react though. Speak your mind, but do it in a manner where it's not like offensive to anybody, or try not to be, because people are going to find offensive what they want to find offensive anyways. But she's just like, go about it to the best of your capability that you know how to without trying to be deceitful or like hurtful. That's all you really can do, right? Because like regardless, I can go at things the nicest way possible, but somebody might not like it. But I don't know. It's just, you can control how you feel about yourself and what you put out into the world. Other than that, like a lot of things in the world we cannot control.
Yeah.
Like that's just a proven thing. Who actually knows?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the only person that knows is yourself.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So I think just kind of radical acceptance, monitoring how you feel, acknowledging it, and then finding the best way to speak your mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like I've said, you can control how you react to things. That's literally the only thing that we do kind of have control over, is how we react to things and like how we want to like implement a plan moving forward. But even that plan goes up in smoke sometimes.
Absolutely.
So it's just trust yourself and have faith in it. On that note too, besides like we've talked a lot about other people and how to deal with them, how do you think that you can kind of move about we've had so many reoccurring themes. I feel like this has been a rough month for us. This has been a really rough month. I went through a mild depressive state for like reasons that I was not even aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And then like we've lost somebody.
Yeah.
So there's that, and that was a situation that was completely a freak accident.
Yeah.
And that's something that like people might deal with that's really hard to control. How do you think we can kind of accept that or move forward with those situations? I don't mean to bring it up because I know it's difficult,
no,
but yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit on this. For those who reviewers don't know, my partner, Sam, his stepmom, was killed about a month ago while on a business trip in Amsterdam. It was a really tragic loss, very unexpected. And it was, talk about things we can't control. It was one of those moments where I remember you and I going on a hike that day with Sam, and we all just kind of like stood in silence.
Yeah.
And we were just like, because neither of us knew how to really fix it. And
because we can't bring her back.
Yeah. And I'm a fixer, my whole life. I've been a fixer my whole life. And I've dealt with grief. I've dealt with loss in the past within my own existence, but to deal with it with someone else and trying to be there for someone you love it was challenging, because even as a therapist, like I was like, yeah, I got this. I can be there. I can show strength. And like, I don't think
you don't always have to have it. You don't always have to show strength. No.
And that's the thing. And coming back to things you can't control, but recognizing what you can in those moments. I thought the best thing for me was to like shut. This is, I know.
No, please, because this is real though.
No,
yeah.
it is. And like, I recognize that I have a master's degree in therapy, that I know how to deal with this, but I became an infant in this moment. I abandoned myself completely to just sort of take care of Sam. And like, not in an abandonment in a bad way, but more an abandonment, like I can't work myself through these feelings right now. I just need to be there for him. I need to be there for him. And that's all I just need. And I will deal with this later. I will, and I remember it was the night before Donovan's podcast, and I called you and just started sobbing. I said, I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know why I'm freaking out, and I recognized that I had not even given myself the ability to breathe, that week. And I think that was really hard, because it was a moment I was trying to control. Yeah. And the fact that like, it wasn't even an external thing at that moment, it was all internal. And I could not control it. I could not control myself. And that to me was like a really big awakening moment for me. And I think it's like, we always talk about, the things we can't control, they're all external. But also,
and we always talk about how like your internal is in your complete control all the time. And like, it is to some extent, but sometimes it's not. And we even spoke about this coming here once again, like, trying to control your internal all the time. I'm not saying like go out there and do every toxic thought that comes to your head and act upon it and just be a maniac. But I'm like, when you abandon yourself and those emotions, like it makes us hard, unempathetic individuals who don't know who we are anymore.
Yep.
And like, that's where it's just like, and I will admit there's those moments though, where like you can't control the situation. And especially in my line of work, the things that I see and go through, it's like, you need to be that person for somebody else sometimes. Like you do. I'm not saying, and that's also something you can't really control, because if this one person's, especially with children, think about it, if that child's breaking down and you want to break down too, that might not be the best thing. But like in that circumstance, after, that's why I'm so big on therapy, and I'm so big on like who you keep around you and having a good support system and people who genuinely love and support you, because like sometimes you do have to suck it up and be there for somebody else, but then like you need to know later it's your turn and you need to unload.
Yeah.
So it's like listening to yourself and allowing yourself and being like, this is what my intuition's telling me in this moment. I need to try to be here for this person, because if we both break down, it's not going to be good. But then I feel like you knew when it was okay to break down, because like we just say this all the time. You had Sam. Sam needed you.
Yeah.
And then you needed me.
Yeah.
And I got you. You know what I mean? It's just like you can control. This is another point we made previously, is like you can control the people you keep around you. Yes. And those are going to be the people that make your outcomes 10 times better or bring in that negative or the good energy.
Yep.
So pick your tribe wisely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's unfortunate events that happen in this world every single day that we genuinely do not have any control of, but we do control the people that we keep around us. And that does make a big difference. And that's where it also comes to like radical acceptance too. It's just like in that moment, you really couldn't do anything. I was even on that hike with you and Sam, and I'm like, I want to say everything to make it better.
Yeah.
And like you can though, and like because he was saying, somebody keeps saying like they're in a better place, or like go listen to this, and they're like, stop, this is driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Where to somebody else it might be like, that's so heartwarming. You never know what somebody actually really needs in detrimental circumstances. So the best you can probably do is just accept the circumstance for what it is right now and be there for that person the best of your capabilities.
Yeah. I will 100% agree with you. This is just a personal opinion. Again, I understand that people grieve differently and everyone goes through their own thing.
Yeah.
That being said, as someone who has worked as a grief specialist at experience camps and also has dealt with now grief very recently, please do not say that the person is in a better place. Because the thing is like that is what your hope is. But there is something that is so like, because that does not help the person who like is attached to that grief. And it's like, okay, but they need to be here with me right now. Like, what do you mean? Like, you know,
You're like, I know they might be in a better place, but like
that doesn't help.
See, but at the same time though, like, should I say my morbid story about the hospital right now?
No. I mean, might as well. Yeah, sure.
Well, because like when we were talking about this though, like I was at the hospital this week. Part of my job is when somebody does, especially working ICU, when somebody passes, I have to bag their body. Yeah. So like I was with actually a new nurse in the room too, and she seemed like very hesitant, and in my head, I was like, am I jaded? Like, why do I feel like this is just, it's a big deal. I feel deeply for their family members, but one of my beliefs is that like your body is just a body, like your spirit and your soul is somewhere else there. You know what I mean? So like that's sometimes what you tell somebody, it might help. If somebody told me about a loved one, like, oh, I can't wait. I'm so curious of where they went, or they were a really good person, like their next life or like this other dimension they're going to is going to be dope. I'd be like, that's actually kind of comforting for me. Where like somebody else though, it might be like, are you out of your fucking mind? Yeah. You know what I mean? So like you do genuinely never know. Like if you know the person, you know what to say a little bit more, but like, I don't know. Also too, like hurt people do hurt people. And I see if you're angry though, like you can get angry at somebody for saying the wrong thing, but that's why I just try to keep in mind, I'm like, just do it from the kindness of your heart and not trying to be like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to say. This is what I'm supposed to do. If you want to do anything for somebody who's hurting, do it from the depths of your soul and the kindness out of your heart. Because like that people can tell though too.
Yes, absolutely.
You can do something I don't agree with, but if I knew if it was trying to help me, I'd still be like, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. But I don't know. I was there and I was doing my job bagging a body and I'm like, I don't know. I just have the sense that like, yes, it sucks they're not here with these people, but what helps me going is like knowing that like things live on, like everything in life is constantly dying, being reborn, radical acceptance of the situation, being grateful for like the moments that I've had in any circumstance, regardless if it's like time with family that ended horribly, a death, a loss of a job, like something's right around the corner to look forward to, in my opinion, a lot of times. And I know that's positivity, but like it's part of life. You know what I mean? And I know that's sad, but also like hopeful at the same time to me.
We go through ebbs and flows,
Yeah, completely.
you know, and
So that's why we like even my Vipassana episode, we talk about like the accepting that this is part of the human experience and part of just like life is there's things we cannot control, and a lot of people will fight to the death, but realize what's not your fight. Listen to yourself and realizing when like you trying to control situations is not good for you. I was gonna just ask you right now about certain practices you do to help yourself when it comes to things you can't control, because like you just explained with that previous example, though, you really didn't know what to do, but you did the best of your abilities at the time, which is great.
yeah.
Before we get into that, though, there was something we spoke about talking about things you can't control, which is a topic on everybody's mind and lips lately, is the election and our new president.
Oh yeah.
So how is it? Tell me about that. Can we control that? Can we control? I mean,
As you can see from my body language, I am very relaxed
not everybody
and
can
so
see.
excited.
Not everybody can see.
No,
But-
not everyone can see. But for my listeners,
You're not excited for the next 4 years of our amazing country?
I genuinely don't know. It's so
That's okay.
It is difficult because I feel like we're in such unprecedented times because we are seeing such a dramatic shift in our presidency. And I think that has been something that's been really it's such a hard conversation to have because everyone has their own views and opinions on it.
Completely.
And that's, I think, one thing that I love so much about our podcast is even though we have our personal beliefs and opinions, that means that it doesn't always have to be someone else's. And so I'm not going to sit here and be hateful. I'm not going to sit here and tell someone else that they're wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say that this is how it needs to be. If not, you're
I respect everybody's
you're all the
opinion,
words in the book,
yeah.
right? I'm not gonna do that, right? But that being said, at the same time, I think it caught a lot of people off guard,
I agree.
and because of catching people off guard, it really put people into a turmoil of wondering what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen to some people are worried about their own rights being taken away right now. Some people are worried that certain laws, certain, changes are going to, happen in America. One of the biggest ones is immigration. There's a lot of undocumented people, hardworking, by the way, hardworking, undocumented people that are living in America right now that are scared out of their minds.
Yeah.
What do we do? Right? As a whole. And it's just like, and it makes me sick to my stomach knowing that like there are people that I love and care about who are in absolute fear and turmoil right now. And
well, everybody that I've been
is,
speaking about
yeah.
things with is how do you feel about, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Is a thing everybody I feel like is hearing. But continue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I mean, as you know, you and I both grew up in middle America.
Yeah.
We grew up in the Midwest. And so I think we had a very different view on the world than now when I live in Los Angeles.
Yeah, completely.
And I know a lot of people that are undocumented, or I know people who are here working in the United States that are just trying to make it, trying to live a better life. Have you seen some of the environments in Mexico that they came from? You bet your ass I'd be
Well,
running.
I've traveled the world and I'm like, we are a
Exactly.
very blessed, fortunate country.
Absolutely. But like you bet your ass I'm going to be running.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't want to be living under cartel rule and in a dangerous, murderous environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Granted, now there's like the argument that's saying that a lot of that crime was brought here. Okay. So you can make that argument. All right. But the thing is that there are still good people here who do work hard, who do want the American dream. I do think that there should, again, personal 2 cents is that I do think that there should be an easier way to come about bringing people into this country while still being able to do it legally. I think that there is a lot of misinformation brought within the media that then is brought to America to scare people.
Yes.
And so I think that you see these huge dynamics and how people are and act, and it's complicated. As a therapist and someone who, studies psychology and just honestly reads articles for fun because it's my passion.
Yeah.
To me, this election felt like a giant social experiment because regardless of who you wanted to vote for, I think a lot of people on the surface level were like, yeah, of course I want Kamala to win. I want Kamala to win. But then you get to that ballot and you see two names, how many people do you think switch that name because they recognize that their life might have been a little easier from 2016 to 2020 compared to 2020 to 2024? Right? You could make that argument.
Completely. Well, that's the thing too, though, is like getting back onto like things you can't control is like you control the dots you put on the paper, but do you control the bigger picture beyond that? No, you don't. We kind of all are in a point where it's like accepting the reality, but also then like doing what you can to change it or at least help you and those around you. So let me ask you this then. I do get like where everybody's very concerned. I don't know too much about either parties, to be honest with you, or like what their plan is. I'm learning day by day as I go. And that's my honest thing is like, I don't want to sit here and act like I know too much about what's going to happen or either one. Cause the thing is also with presidential campaigns and like candidates, one thing I've learned is they can say they're going to do something regardless if it's a good or a bad thing. And it doesn't happen.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So right now I'm just over here where it's just like, I don't really know what's going to happen, nor do any of us. We just have an idea of what we've been told. And there were pros and cons to each situation that the outcome could have been, regardless of which candidate won. So my biggest thing now is like, we have our result. That's not going anywhere. That's not changing. How do you address the situation of things you can't control? What do you think moving forward is going to be most beneficial for everybody?
In times like this, I focus heavily on community.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I got the election, I woke up that morning to seeing Donald Trump, you know, becoming our president. And at work, I immediately went in and checked on every single teacher that I worked with or had a good relationship with. I checked on the administrators. I checked on, you know, just even just the, you know, the teachers' help, like whoever it may have been in those moments. I've been like, hey, how are you feeling? If like, what's coming up? You doing okay? And I think that was me just wanting to be like, are you okay?
Yeah.
You know,
just checking in. That's why community is such a big thing.
It is so important.
And who you surround yourself with, definitely.
And who you surround yourself with, absolutely. And it's like, even, you know, even people you may not have like a, you know, really close connection with, I still went out of my way to make sure that, you know, hey, are you, you know, just checking in. Are you doing okay? Or how are you feeling about this? You know, and just allowing people to just be open about it. Some people, you know, were more okay than others. You know, some people were absolutely just stressed out of their minds, and some people were like, you know what,
that's the thing,
it's
though,
just another
too,
4 years, I'll move on. And I'm like, all right, sounds good.
I get where people are stressed completely, and I get where people are fearful.
Yeah.
But right now, let's like look at the kind of the facts is one thing that I feel like might help people sometimes dealing with unknown, is like looking at what's actually true in this moment instead of going out on tangents of what might happen. I'm like, nothing has happened yet. Yeah. We don't really know what's going to be passed, what's going to happen, what's going to fly and what's not. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I get where it's scary. Stick with that. Feel that. But do not let it dictate your mind and go on a tangent and create a reality that's not even a reality.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like we are all so good sometimes. And that's where I'm like, the mind does crazy things. Yes, acknowledge your feelings. But when you're creating a scenario in your head and it's literally like a movie of what you think is going to happen when it's not taking place right now, I'm like, please do not let that control your mood or your attitude. Focus on your emotions, acknowledge them, speak with people who care about you about those emotions. But let's not stress ourselves out about something that has not happened and might not happen yet.
Yeah.
Because like stress is a huge causer of disease. Your body is not functioning the way it's supposed to. And I'm like, honestly, if the world's already rough enough as it is, do we need to add another thing in there? Do we need to add your health getting blown up too?
Yeah.
Like, let's, you know, I mean, that's just something I thought. I'm like, I just want everybody to like, and that's the thing that was like, no, we can't go up there and like change the president right now or tell him like, no, we kind of can, but like you can control your voice.
Yeah.
So I think the more people are just open, honest, and vocal about what they want for this country, and the more we all come together as a community and realize that we all are in this together, because there's power in numbers.
There is.
I think a lot of times the nation and people we're taught to be divided because it's easier to control a nation divided, let's be honest. Yeah. But like, I think right now what we all really need is like, we can control each other. And if we don't feel like this higher power in our country has our back, can we at least just have each other's back?
Yeah.
Can we at least be kind to one another? That's something we all have control over, is being kind to one another. And even if we don't see eye to eye on a bunch of different things, let's just all kind of agree we all want to be safe and healthy and like not do harm on one another, you know?
Absolutely.
Like, let's just have each other's back through this, speak your opinion and your voice, try to make ourselves be heard, but also realize when it's just like, we're doing our best.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. And I think the thing is like, when it comes to community, especially like reaching out to local organizations that you feel are important to you, you know, reflect on certain moments or aspects in your life that created huge impact, you know, and finding people in the community who have very similar values and beliefs when it comes to those things.
And I'm not, the thing, when I hear finding people with similar beliefs, is sometimes I feel like then it can be a little isolating as well, though, because if you hang around with people who only have the same beliefs as you constantly, sometimes that can mean like we're not for anybody else. I encourage people, yes, find people who have the same beliefs as you, but also be open and understanding to other people.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
I think it's just more for like immediate.
Yeah, I do agree.
Yeah, just finding people, like, because I'm not asking, I'm not asking a Democrat to go join the, you know, the RNC right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not what we're saying. What we're saying more is just like going out into your community, actually reaching out to people, you know, finding those things that, you know, you do enjoy, that you can, you know, find common ground with other people. And then from there expanding, like you were saying, and being able to find new people and find new experiences. The greatest thing in the world is being able to talk to someone without an ego.
Yeah.
I know that sounds insane.
Do you think that's easy to find?
No, absolutely not. But the thing is again, what we can and cannot control, you can control yourself. I do a lot of the
Be
times,
that person for somebody else who doesn't have the ego.
Yeah.
Realize where you need to put in some work in yourself, take the necessary steps, and just be there, be a listening ear.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is the best part is like I've learned through myself and just these past, you know, 3-4 years of really just self-reflection that if I choose not to have an ego when someone is telling me their beliefs and stories, and I just come from the question of why, it is so fascinating.
You learn so much too.
You do. And even if it's something that's like absolutely wild and you're like, oh, what the, you know, like you're like, whoa.
As long as it's not attacking your, like,
No,
that's the
agreed.
thing. People feel attacked because a lot of times if you don't agree with my belief, that means you're against it. That's not true.
Yeah.
I'm like, we don't have to see eye to eye, but like, please, like, intrigue me for a second. What's this about? I love it.
People's
I love
passions
hearing
are
people's story.
fascinating.
Oh my
Like,
gosh. They might flip your mindset, but if anything, you're going to learn something. You were like, wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I've met some fascinating humans in this world that all have their own different beliefs. And I guarantee you, some I would agree with, some I definitely do not agree with. But that being said, at the end of the day, I've learned to love, you know, and appreciate every interaction I've had because I feel like
everybody has a purpose in this world. They genuinely do. Without like one side, you can't have another. And like without different opinions is no room. Like that's how you get all these different ideas is you bring two people together probably with different ones and you come to a conclusion. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's also too, the biggest thing, it shaped me as a person I am today because of it. So I'm very grateful for those moments and being able to control what I can.
Yeah.
And by recognizing what I can't control, that's okay too.
So before we wrap up then, besides finding community, I feel like we've talked a lot about like how to deal with things that like you can't control. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you, how do you give yourself a beat when you're about to act a way that you know you can't control, but you can control, but you might not be too proud of?
Ooh.
Like, and do you know how a lot of times we say you can kind of control how you present yourself to the world sometimes? Yeah. Those moments where you're like, I'm about to burst. How do you take a step back to control yourself again?
I know I've talked about this on the podcast before, but believe it or not, I like to breathe sevens. Yeah. That is literally my most favorite thing in the world. It will be until the day I die. It is inhale 7, hold for 7 seconds, and then it's exhale for 7 seconds. And I think that being able to give yourself the ability to just deep breathe is so important because it gives you the opportunity to figure out and give yourself a clear head and a better foundation of what's going in on this moment and how I'm going to choose to react to it. Yeah. Through that, besides in the moment situations, I also am a firm believer in being able to just talk to someone who is actually not a part of the situation. I know that I talk to you a lot about things that you have no part in whatever, but I share a lot with you because as a person,
I'm here for you, babe.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you're also a safe person,
Yeah.
right? And I think that that's really important, is that a lot of people may not have those safe people in their lives. So finding someone who you feel like you can just like, yo, this is what's going on.
You
Let me
also
just
have
spill
to
the
be
tea.
willing to open up to somebody to
do.
find that person. That
You
was
do.
something that was difficult for me, was like, I'm like, why don't I have anybody I feel like I can vent to? Why do I always have to be the strong person? It's like, because you're always the strong person. Open up for once.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep, absolutely. So I get, that's my biggest thing when it comes to breathing, and then also being able to reach out to a safe person that you find important, that's important to you. So
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Definitely in the past like week and a half, 2 weeks, however long, my heart's been breaking into a bajillion pieces. You and definitely my therapist have been lights, and just remembering like the little words that I hear from each of you is what really helps me to take a beat and say, how do I want, not like there's probably different ways I can show up for myself
yeah,
and still like make it from a logical standpoint, but how do I want to show up for myself? Not like holding back, but still being like true to who I am in a calm, formal manner. So to me, what really helps me in those situations and what I'm kind of hearing is, please just take a minute. If you look at that phone and somebody said something to you that like you don't like, you can control taking an extra 1 minute, put your phone down and be like, how do I actually want to respond? Is this in my best version of myself and for that person? Or am I just going to spam them right now and call them a bunch of angry things? Take a minute.
Yep.
Please take a beat. Take a few deep breaths. Go out in nature, stare at the sun. I don't know. But like, I think a lot of it is just taking a moment and realizing like what you can't control and being the person you want to be.
because through time, through doing that as a practice, you become a much more calm and more foundation driven person in the long run. So I talk to people a lot and they tell me, they're like, geez, how are you so calm through like all these situations? How are you dealing with this? I'm like, because I've been through this rodeo.
And we've talked about this too. Yeah, the more you react so quickly, a lot of times you create even more problems for yourself.
You do.
Too. Yeah.
Absolutely. But also too, it's just like, people are like, how do you deal with it? I'm like, it's just, you deal with it.
It's a practice. Everything's a daily practice. Showing up for yourself is a daily practice.
It is. Yep.
Breathing is a day, like taking a moment for yourself. Like consistency is key.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, no, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting conversation.
This was. And we had also no outline for it too, which is fun.
We were feeling like going rogue today.
We went rogue today. This was our first podcast ever doing it rogue. And
Is it really?
It is.
Instead of writing our outline, we went and got donuts.
Yep. So talking about things we can control. I don't know if we'll add this in
We
here,
both
but
were not feeling too hot today. So
weren't.
yes.
I'm fighting a cold, as you can hear from my voice.
Yes, but that's what I mean. Like, we could have sat there. We just knew we had ourselves today, so we decided that it was time to give us some grace, and we went to go get donuts, and it made our day very much better. So,
I bought a jacket.
But what'd you say?
I bought a jacket.
Oh gosh. Okay. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for listening. I love you. Until next time.
All right. Thank you so much. Keep shining your light.